Okay, guys, today, right, I'm going to share with you the most unluckiest minister in Singapore. Right? He took over from a corrupted minister. Right, with all the legal issue, train derailed, SIA incident, oil spill.
Actually quite sway.
But a lot of people hate on him, right? It might not be because of all this incident. It might have something to do with his personality. I'm going to show you guys a video, right, that explore more about this.
Okay.
I tell you my fear for you. My fear for you is that you clearly are a very hardworking man. You are clearly a good man for the job. But maybe you don't want, or maybe you're not that good at doing the political stakeholder management side of things. What's going to happen to the rest of Singapore is that someone that's very charismatic is going to do the job. And that's not necessarily what's best for the country.
Yeah.
That is my fear.
I understand, John. I understand. I mean, so I think all of us have to be aware of our strengths and our weaknesses. I will continue to focus on what I can do well. And I think solving problems, fixing the gaps and the issues, improving the system, those are things which I believe I can contribute, and I want to focus on that. But in areas where we need to step up and do better and improve, I will certainly also do so, because you're right. I mean, I can't just do the part one without the part two. I am not unwilling to share about what we do. I'm not unwilling to go out there and engage our stakeholders. I mean, I do that in my role as MP.
You do, yeah.
Right? Within my GRC, within my constituency, I do engage my residents. I do share with them what we do, but of course at a more local level. At the national level, I think that's where government as a whole, we often have this challenge because a lot of the things we do, people may not be aware and difficult to explain sometimes, and it's difficult for people to appreciate. And that's why I think we need to find different channels, including through podcasts, to be able to reach out, right? We are able to help people to understand. We are able to help people to appreciate what has been done. And then importantly also, don't assume that everything is perfect. It's not. There are still areas for improvement, whether it's in transport or in other areas. So the important thing for us is also to be humble and to recognize that this is an ongoing, continuous improvement process.
Actually quite sad to hear a question like that. Because basically he's saying you're not charismatic. You don't have that like bravado, that gusto.
And you start with, I fear for you.
Okay, so as you can see, right, Mr. Chee Hong Tat, right, is a very quiet, very low profile kind of guy. So I ask you guys, do you think, right, a leader that stays out from the spotlight, right, can still inspire and motivate others well?
Okay, I think no for the start. Yes for the longer game. Because these type of people, a lot of times they are more result driven, result oriented. They don't care about pleasing you or whatever. I'm here to do my job, fix this problem, and I'm gonna do just that. So starting they might not like, hey, this guy like capable or not. But when she hits the fan and stuff like that, right? And then his capability come in, and then that's when they will have this newfound respect or inspiration from this guy.
Okay, one thing about quiet leaders like him, right, he stay out from the spotlight. So like he mentioned, a lot of things that he do, right, goes unaware. Yeah, like, you know, like previously I mentioned all the incident that took place, right? Okay, the most important thing that he do, right, okay, firstly he solved it. I believe that Singapore solved those crises well lah. But most importantly, right, is how do you prevent those incidents, right, from happening again? And I feel that that's where he shine in. Yeah, and without like the podcast or whatnot, right, without channels like this, right, his effort, right, will go unnoticed.
It's true. I don't know what he do actually.
But in the long run, if let's say we feel that there's a shortage in delays and there's lesser breakdowns, right, then we can know that this guy is actually a very good leader.
And the problem is you will not take note when there's no problem.
There's the
You take note when there is a problem.
Exactly.
So do you value a leader who's able to pull you out of crisis, or a leader who can navigate and circumvent the crisis altogether?
Actually, to your question, right, I feel like a quiet leader, right, is harder for them to inspire people. Because inspiration, right, it comes from like within, it comes from the heart. So, you know, when you do all these things, right, without sharing much, right, people cannot get inspired. As a leader, right, the first important skill set, I believe, right, is the power of influence. And without being able to influence anyone around you, right, you don't have that capability to move things, I would say. So, when you want to be a good leader, right, I feel like sometimes you need that rah-rah, you need that oomph, you need that vibe. Yeah.
Then do you think the quiet leader, right, can be just as effective, right, in a crisis as compared to a more outspoken leader?
Okay, I personally think, right, this depends on what the leader is leading the troops into. So if the leader is leading his troops into war, let's just say, you cannot be just calm. That calmness might cause your troops trouble because they are not mentally prepared. They are lax inside and But in Cheong Tat's case, right, what is he leading his troops into? Into a group of angry people who just waited for MRT or suddenly break down to change their route and stuff like that.
Well, it's a chaotic scene.
Exactly.
And people are damn pissed on it.
Exactly. Especially when recently the for 1 week one.
Yeah, the West Siders are damn angry.
Yeah, there's a huge lapse in the line. So he is leading his troops, right, into this chaos, and this is when I feel his nature of being a calm leader, right, actually help him more. Because people are already angry. If you match their energy, you come in like, wow, you are just going to escalate things. But if you're calm and collected, this is what we do now, the train breakdown, let's arrange for buses, shuttle bus and stuff like that. The calmness will spread, and then it will de-escalate the problem. So I feel in his case, might not be the worst idea to be calm.
Actually, I feel, right, because I watched the whole thing, right, one good trait that they all pass down within that whole group of people, right, in the LTA, is when things are screwed, the first thing, right, is not pointing fingers. And by doing that, right, is so good because why? Everyone is like in this focus mode. Okay, if this train breakdown, we focus on this issue. If this issue with people, public or whatever, we focus on this. And this will actually make the workers appreciate things better. It will make the employees who is repairing the tracks or whatever, right, appreciate everyone. And I feel it's a really, really healthy environment. And I feel like this has to come from the top. If the top, right, is angry or what you say, all this, right, a whole different vibe will come out. A whole new different tone will be reflected, and this will reflect to the market, to the public. Yeah.
Okay, bringing back to my first question, right? I feel that whatever you just mentioned, he is able to inspire the people in his organization rather than the people outside. So a quiet leader might not be able to move the crowd, but he can move people in the organization.
Maybe I think what KP mentioned is probably closer to reality. Because sometimes you want to inspire them logically. Okay, this is what we need to do. You all are competent people. Let's let our expertise shine. So you inspire them that way. Sometimes rationally let's go. Sometimes, like what Doreen mentioned, you need to inspire from within, from the heart. So those are the times where maybe your circle isn't as competent. Then that is where one might say a stronger leader is necessary. Because now simply going by logic is not enough.
You round them up. And I feel, right, thankfully for Cheong Tat, right, he is MOT. Because transport, right, actually is all result driven. How many trains break down? How many, if this problem can you fix? What is the result of every action? And it's a very, it's less emotional in his expertise and or the minister that he is upholding. And I think thankfully
to the public. But maybe to the team, maybe he needs to put in a bit more
true.
You know why or not? Because who are the people going in to repair? It's those technicians.
The engineers and technicians.
The engineers and technicians, right? Sometimes they work
shit.
Yeah. From maybe 7 p.m. all the way to 3 a.m. Then next day they do the same thing and all. It's damn shag, damn tiring. Sometimes you need to give them a bit of, energy.
Like the speech, the war rally.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Okay, then what you mentioned just now, right, I want to ask you, does his EQ, right, in leadership, right, compensate, right, for the lack of
gusto?
Yeah.
I think EQ is very, very important when it comes to leadership.
For sure.
There's a Sun Tzu quote: if you know yourself and you know your enemy, you would win 100 battles or something like that. Basically, the idea is if you don't even know other people, it is impossible to win over them. And leaders need to win over their team. So this is not just about the enemy. It's about winning your team over also. One other thing I know about how these quiet leaders sometimes eventually emerge to be very inspirational leaders, right? Is if you look at the military, last time you go for like command school selection and then you see like all those wayang people, right?
Yes.
Have, right? Do any of them inspire you or not?
They uninspire me.
Because there's this one interview, right? Simon Sinek, he interviewed a SEAL team guy. If I'm not mistaken, it was the SEAL Team 6 guy. So he asked him, what is it that makes a soldier SEAL worthy? And the guy say, I cannot give you a definite answer, but one thing I've noticed is this. The huge guy, big bulging tattoo, broad shoulders, last time used to be stud in school, maybe football captain and all, those guys don't end up becoming SEALs. Sometimes it is that skinny guy, sometimes he's not even very brave. He's trembling during face the situations and all. He's just pulling through, keeping his head down, caring for the guy on his left, caring for the guy on his right. Those are the people who end up becoming SEALs. Those are the people who end up becoming leaders. So I feel in our situation, right, and just now John was a bit brazen in the way he stated it lah. What if someone more charismatic comes forward and kind of win your crowd over? Basically, I think the question is, elections coming soon. People know you are a good guy, but sometimes the opposition, they're very rah-rah. They can rile the crowd up. I don't see that in you, but I know you are the man for the job. So how can you win over these guys? So the thing about these kind of people is, sometimes it is in the long run that you realize it is the quiet guy, doesn't need to rile you up and all, but he is the one that truly inspires. I don't know if Chee Hong Tat is this guy. Hopefully he seems like, he has all the makings of this kind of leader, but it really is the guy who takes care of the fellow on the left or the fellow on the right. This is the kind of fellow he is.